The young lady had just woken up and opened her eyes. Immediately, Tina, the maid, opened the curtains and asked how she was feeling. The lady wiped her eyes and smiled. Although she hadn't eaten anything yet, she was already feeling nauseous. Her whole body ached and her chest burned. But in general, nothing new, she said. She was fine, and Tina didn't have to worry. The maid replied that this condition was not usually considered abnormal. The maid assured her that she would bring the girl water to wash her face. But the young lady was in no mood at all. The girl does not even know how it came to this. She is the terminally ill daughter of the Sidus family, Sidus. She has always been a loser. In short, she was reborn. She wasn't reincarnated into someone else's body. She was reborn. She was sure that she had died in her previous life. She died of an illness. Even modern medicine was powerless in her case. No tests or high-tech equipment could help find out what kind of unknown disease had struck her. Despite the fact that a large number of people offered their help, they were all charlatans and only took money from her family. And others kept talking nonsense. If she continued like this, she would soon stretch her legs. To the girl's surprise, it happened. Her health was getting worse and worse day by day. And then came the moment when she breathed her last in her 20s. But when she opened her eyes again, she found herself in another world. And this time her life sparkled with new colors. She became Sidus. Sidus confidently decided to forget about the past and enjoy the present and the future. But something went wrong. At the age of 5, she was struck down with the disease again. It was as if it was written in her fate. It was only because her parents spared no expense for her treatment and refused to give up that she was able to survive for another 7 years. But she could not count on more. Mom and Dad called the best doctors from the capital, bought all the necessary medicines to improve their daughter's condition a little. A skilled healer even came to Miena, but it was all in vain. Sidus's death would not be a surprise to anyone. The maid came to the girl and began to calm her down, but the lady assured her that she would sleep until the evening, so she asked Tina not to wake her until then. To other people, the girl's dreams might have seemed quite ordinary, but there was something special about her dreams. It may surprise some people, but almost everyone dreams. The place she goes to is like a waiting room where you can travel to another person's dream. Such travels allow a girl to experience something she has never felt before. It can be called a tour of dreams. Behind the shining door is something that can be very useful. Miena saw the same door and wondered if it usually doesn't appear at such a time. But if you think about it, it seems that she has not been in this dream yet. She decided to go through it and found herself in complete darkness. There was not even a sign on the door. Miena began to look for a way out, but suddenly she heard a voice behind her and decided to find out what was going on. She asked if anyone was around, and at that moment she saw an unknown boy standing behind her. Since they can talk, it must be someone's dream. But the more she thinks, the more strange the situation becomes. Perhaps the reason is that the dream has no specific content, or maybe it was a nameless door. The girl asked if the boy could hear her. He confirmed and added that he had not seen her before. It was a small voice. A small wind would blow and it would no longer be heard, the girl realized. But the problem was that Miena didn't know the name of the person speaking and couldn't see his face. She could only hear the voice. The girl decided that she had to get out of this dream as soon as possible, but at the same time she was thinking about how to talk to the boy. Miena stayed put and asked if she could talk to him. The boy was scared and asked if someone wanted to talk to him. But before that, Miena asked permission to let in at least a drop of light. She could not stand the darkness. Then the boy shouted in concern that this was not necessary. He also had no desire to talk. Then the girl decided to go back. But at that moment, behind her back, an unknown man said that he was forbidden to talk to strangers without permission. The boy also said that his father had forbidden him to do so. Miena was a little angry and did not understand what was happening and asked the boy's name. The unknown boy did not have time to answer, and at that moment, Miena began to realize that she was starting to wake up. She promised the boy that she would return to him tomorrow at the same time and told him to wait for her. Miena woke up in her bed, and Tina came to her and apologized for disturbing her with the noise. The Sidus family was not very well known and was on the verge of ruin. They don't get visitors very often, but this time someone came. The only privilege of their family is an ancient surname and a rich history. But it is only appropriate to talk about this if a girl to be published grows up in the family. Miena got out of bed and thought that a wedding was out of the question. The Duke and Duchess of Sidus have only one daughter, and she is counting down the days until her death. And then the young lady realized that in this case there was only one answer. He is a loan shark who needs to pay his debts. On the one hand, he is not doing anything illegal, but on the other hand, he is trying to make money off of a sick girl and her unfortunate parents. The girl asked Tina how long ago the guest had arrived. The maid replied that he had just arrived. The owner came down to the living room 15 minutes ago. Miena got up, embarrassed, but realizing that she had to deal with the situation first, she told the maid that she had to leave. The maid, Tina, tried to calm the girl down and explained that the owner had ordered her to keep the girl in the room until the guest left. The girl wondered if the maid was only concerned about her condition, but Tina was right, as much as the young lady didn't want to admit it. Miena calmed down and went back to bed. The girl is not at the age to express her protest with tantrums. She would lie quietly. Miena pretended to fall asleep for a while, but when she woke up, she started coughing heavily and ordered the maid to bring water and medicine. While the maid Tina ran to get everything she needed, she got out of her bed and ran away. She was very tired of staying in bed all day. She almost ran into the living room and heard the moneylender anxiously questioning her parents about whether they could pay back the money they had borrowed. The moneylender also added that they could not pay back even a little bit, let alone the entire amount. The father replied excitedly and reminded him how he had asked for more time. The moneylender replied angrily that in that case the man should not have taken the money from him, and once he had spent it, it was too late to turn back. But the moneylender calmed down and asked if he could wait. Would the man be able to return at least some of the money? The moneylender also added that he had heard rumors that the mine he had taken as collateral was making losses, although the Duke assured him that it was making a good profit. Miena came into the room, heard this, and thought that it was logical that the family had to turn to this impudent man. The moneylender got angry again and said that if the Duke and Duchess could not pay him back, he would take their estate. The Duke ordered the guest not to shout and asked if he had no children and if he did not know that his daughter was seriously ill. The girl decided to draw attention to herself. The men were angry, turned to her, and the young lady greeted her father. The father immediately went to his daughter and asked her excitedly what she was doing here. The girl replied that she was awakened by the noise. The moneylender looked at the girl to see if she was the same daughter. Miena also greeted him and apologized for interrupting the adult's conversation. The moneylender noticed that the girl looked really bad and realized that she did not have much time left. He said that the conversation was over for the day and advised the Duke to thank him for having a daughter of that age. But the moneylender promised to visit the family again at the end of the month to collect the debt with interest. And in parting, the impudent man decided to say that if he didn't see the money, he would make a merry life for the family. After the intruder left, the father turned away from the girl and said that he did not want her to see him so miserable. The father also added that since he had managed to drive the intruder away, he would try to prevent him from taking their home next time. Then the daughter went up to her father and said that it would be very good if they stopped spending money on her because it was pointless. The parents do absolutely everything they can for the girl. Thanks to them, the girl was able to live such a long life, although she should have been in the grave long ago. The father told the girl not to say such things. He would never back down and allow the moneylender to rob them to the bone. Miena said that it was a shame that her parents had spent so much money and asked if it was worth going into debt. Her father asked what she meant. Miena replied that he should face the truth. After she left this world, her parents and all the other inhabitants of this estate would have to move on. The father was angry at his daughter's words and thoughts and sternly ordered her not to say anything stupid. Miena wants to live her last days without worrying about anything. She also doesn't want to see her parents suffer because of her. Her father and mother have given her an incredibly happy life, enveloping her with love and care, so she doesn't want to be a burden to them. Miena took her father's hand and happily told him that she wanted to visit all the most beautiful places with her family, admire nature, monuments, and architecture. She also wanted to eat delicious food. After these words, the father froze and said that the girl was talking to him as if she would leave him in a little while. The daughter laughed and replied that she knew her body better than anyone else. The girl was sure that she would not be able to survive the next winter. Miena felt that death, which she had already faced in her past life, was slowly but surely creeping closer and closer. The father sat down with the girl and said that he and the Duchess were incredibly lucky because they had a kind and sensitive child. Manhwa was never naughty, even when she was a baby. The father took the girl's hands in his and said that it was very hard for him to hear this from his own daughter. He smiled and promised to go wherever she wanted. The Duke also sincerely assured her that they would try anything she wanted. They would also try to make the most of their time. The father asked if his daughter had thought of where she wanted to go first. He will do whatever it takes to take her there. Once upon a time, there was a merchant who dreamed of traveling the world and becoming a treasure hunter. But he was forced to settle down in his hometown and take over the family business. Thanks to his incredible abilities, this man earned huge amounts of money from any craft he touched. This was certainly good and incredible. But during his life, the man could never forget his childhood dream. He decided to hide the treasure chest so that other adventurers could find it. Somehow, this man could not find peace and did not understand how he could die and not find a worthy place for his wealth. Then the girl herself began to think that it would be nice to hide it where no one would think of looking for it. The girl decided to think about it, and then realized that it would be a good idea to visit the lands that were under the rule of her family. Then, the man looked up at the sky from the window, and it seemed to tell him that there were hardly any people in the abandoned Thales mine, and there was no better place to hide. It was the same place, the abandoned Thales mine, where the girl had happily arrived with her father and maid Tina. When the father saw the abandoned mine and the dirt around it, he asked his daughter if she might want to choose another place. Manhwa smiled, took her father's hand, and happily assured him that she loved it here. Besides, the views are incredible. But in fact, at that time, the young lady could smell money coming from underground. The girl happily ran to find it. Soon they would see a truly incredible landscape she knew. It seems that the girl ran to the right place. Where the source and the end of life meet, a new story is born. Everything in the world has its origin there. Water serves as the beginning of life's journey, and the earth symbolizes its end point. The border where water and earth meet, the source of the mine. Manhwa realized that the merchant had come up with a very clever idea. Not everyone can solve such a riddle. But she had seen everything, so she had to find the source. Then the girl happily asked her father if he would really do whatever she wanted. The father and the maid assured her that it was true. After that, Manhwa asked her father to go to the stream. She knew that if her father found what was in it, then she would do her best to be cured, and would even take all the necessary medicines. But if something happened to her, they should leave it alone. The father replied that no matter what happened to their family, he could not go back on his word, because he had already promised to save his daughter. The father walked for a while and could not find anything, but at one point, he seemed to stand in one place silently, and at that moment, Manhwa was overjoyed. Who would have thought that something could be hidden in such a dirty stream? Her father pulled a huge red chest out of the stream and was very surprised. At the same time, Manhwa watched him happily from the bank. The father could not believe his eyes and asked how this was possible. The daughter happily told him that she actually had the ability to smell money. At first, she didn't want to look for these treasures because she was feeling unwell. But when she learned that her parents were in debt because of her, she changed her mind. The father turned to the girl, and she thought that he wanted to ask her why she had been hiding her ability until now, but he had his own reasons. Before the father could say anything, the girl began to apologize to him for not telling him about it earlier. But now she will return all the money they have invested in her and her treatment. Manhwa also added that even though the chest doesn't seem heavy, it's because of the spell of lightness that's been placed on it. She insisted on refusing an escort because she knew her father would find the treasure, and the coachman would hardly suspect that something was wrong. The girl assumed that as soon as people found out about their find, the easy bait lovers would head to the mine in droves. In this case, it will be too late to stop them. Therefore, it is necessary to set up a fence and notify everyone that this is a private area. Before Manhwa could continue, her father took her by the shoulders and asked her to stop. The girl did not understand what was going on and asked what had happened. Her father was silent for a long time, but then he took the chest and said that they would spend all the money on her treatment. Manhwa refused and added that in that case she would overdose from so many drugs. The girl estimated that part of the treasure would be enough to pay off all the debts. The father asked his daughter if she was really refusing to take her medication because they didn't have enough money. Sitting in her room, Mienya recalled this difficult day. Somehow she managed to keep her father from spending recklessly, but it took all her strength. However, the lady had other things to do. Mienya fell into a dream and found herself in front of a shining door again. She couldn't get herself together and decided to tackle the problems as they came. To be honest, it is better for the girl to die than to be sick and suffer, but she cannot leave without fulfilling her mission. Besides, it would be inhumane to leave a child who might need help from a young lady, Mienya thought. Mienya entered the darkness through the door and greeted the boy. He seemed to be standing there waiting for her and greeted her as well. Mienya offered to explain things to the boy a little bit today and try to talk calmly. The boy again said that he was not allowed to talk to anyone, but Mienya assured him that he had broken the ban anyway, because he had said hello to her. Children develop social skills by interacting with other people, so I wondered who gave his father the right to deprive the boy of socializing. Mienya said that the father would not know that they were talking, unless he told him. The boy may seem carefree, she realized, but he is too careful. Has he been brainwashed so much that he doesn't feel safe even in his sleep? The boy did agree to talk, but only if no one knew about it. Mienya was happy because she felt trust and heard the kid's cheerful voice. The girl suggested that if they now had a secret in common, they could be on a first-name basis. The boy asked what that meant. Mienya explained that this is how friends communicate. For example, instead of saying good day, they say hello. Then the boy was silent for a while, worried, and then asked what a friend was and who he was. Mienya was quite surprised. She wondered what kind of environment he grew up in. The kid doesn't even know such basic things. The owner of such a dark dream world and a fragile voice that seems to shatter like a crystal vase if you touch it carelessly. Mienya began to explain to the boy that a friend is someone with whom he can see at any time for no reason, talk about anything, and have fun. Usually friends learn something new from each other, share joys and love to eat delicious food. The boy said that it was quite difficult. The girl explained that it was not. There is no reason for friendship to be complicated, and it shouldn't be. Mienya extended her hand to the boy and happily declared that she would be his best friend and asked him his name. The boy replied that he did not have a name. The girl became angry and decided that whatever it took, she would find this man and make him pay for what he had done to the baby. Mienya offered to give the boy a name, and he happily agreed. His name would be Ruminit, or Ruth for short. Mienya smiled as she noticed that the boy liked the name. Before she died, she would try to tell him everything she knew about this world. The girl introduced herself as Mienya from the Citus family. Therefore, the boy should not forget that he will need to repay the debt, but not to her, but to her family. Mienya asked how old the boy was. He replied that he did not know. Then she asked where he lived. He did not know that either. Mienya said in anger that this was a horror. Whatever it was, they had to focus on their current target, Celepatrica Johnson. While she was saying these words, she launched a paper airplane at the wooden door. From the inside came screams. An unidentified man demanded that she bring him more beer and meat. Mienya also saw a man who was barely sitting on a chair and could not understand what the commotion was about. The angry man, who did not have enough beer, called everyone talentless. The son of the same merchant, Lauren, also participated in the dream. Lauren asked his son if he really had to admire his drunken face from heaven. The son began to apologize for his behavior. The father just sighed and assured him that he thought he had decided to renounce everything he had inherited. The father reminded him that he had seen what he had written in his will, but the son is still sitting on his hands. This means that the world will never see his last masterpiece. In his will, Lauren stated that his treasure map could be used by absolutely anyone. Therefore, there are most likely already those who are actively trying to solve the puzzle. At least that's what Mienya thought. The son wanted to tell his father that it was not logical to leave the family inheritance to others, but the father shouted at him and said that if he wanted the treasure to go to him, then he should solve the puzzle and take it at last. The father calmed down and told him to listen carefully and memorize. He will help him with the riddle. The son was happy. But then, the son decided to ask, if his father was offering to help him, why not just tell him where the chest was? Lauren exhaled heavily and only now seemed to realize how stupid his son was. Does he really think that everything in this life is so easy? Mienya watched and also did not understand how he could be like that. After all, he had been told literally everything to the smallest detail. Perhaps, she thought, The treasure would be at the bottom of the creek for centuries. In that case, Lorne would never be able to find peace. But in another dream, the girl was told that the treasure map had passed to the Johnson family's only son. Lying on the floor and thinking about the treasure, Mienna suddenly wondered why she hadn't woken up for so long. The maid woke Mienna up. She opened her eyes and saw a worried Tina and her father by her side. She wondered if she was really that tired. She turned to her father, who immediately smiled and asked if she needed anything. In that case, she could ask for anything and not be shy. Mienna spoke up, considering that it was morning and she hadn't slept much. We need to exchange the gold they found for money. They also need to stop outsiders from entering the Talise mine as soon as possible. But first of all, it is necessary to secure the territory with barbed wire around the perimeter and post guards. Logically, if people get inside, they will not find the treasure. But if access to the mine is denied, people will most likely want to buy the entire land. And in that case, Mienna will be happy to watch the auction and enjoy the smell of money. The father took the girl by the hand and asked her to look at herself because she was sick. If she strained so much, her condition might worsen. The girl should give up this business. Mienna was surprised and did not understand what her father was talking about. She had only slept for a few hours, and he was going to refuse the money because of that. Her father broke down in tears and said that even the hardiest people have a hard time traveling long distances. Mienna smiled and tried to calm her father down, telling him that she had had an incredible day yesterday. The father sat down at his daughter's bedside and assured her that now, with a smile on his face, he was ready to let her go anywhere. But they would still fight to the last and could never give up. If she wanted to fully enjoy life before the trip, she would have to take care of herself, more than he would take care of her. At this point, Mienna started to fall asleep again and thought about how she wanted her mom to come back soon. In the letter, her mother wrote that she would most likely have to stay with the Duke and Duchess, at least until their son recovered. Since their residence is not far from the capital, there is no need to worry about her well-being. But the young gentleman's symptoms indicate that he is suffering from the same disease as Mienna. This is very disturbing for her. The girl started the paper airplane again. She noticed 2 doors between them, one leading to her mother's dream world, and the other to Justin Everdeen. Mienna's mind raced with thoughts of what her mother had written, namely, about the young boy's symptoms, which were the same as hers. The girl touched the door of Justin Everdeen's dreams and tried to look in for a while. When she entered, she found herself in his office, but immediately she was met by an unfriendly boy who said that he had never seen the girl here before. Of course, he asked who she was. Mienna immediately noticed her dark hair and silver eyes, and she looked very tired. But when she looked at the boy, she realized that they bore a remarkable resemblance and was surprised. The boy was almost not surprised, because the appearance of strangers in his dreams is a common thing. But out of the blue, the maid also appeared. Mienna realized, judging by what he had said earlier, that lucid dreams were common for him. But even for a lucid dream, there were too many details. Just think, a boy her age with the same abilities. The boy asked again who she was. Without a pang of conscience, Mienna transformed into an angel and assured him that he should not be afraid of her. The boy was surprised and thought about it. Mienna replied that he should not be surprised, because his mother's prayers had reached heaven, and now she was here. The boy was angry and did not take it seriously. Mienna asked him if he had not heard what she had said. The boy decided to sit down next to the angel and replied that she did not look like a messenger of God. Then, Mienna asked if he was a skeptic. The boy asked if she could show him some proof. The angel replied that even if she did, he would still not believe her. Mienna noticed that this boy was a common atheist. It would not be easy to convince him of the truth of her words, but she would try. The angel put his hand under the boy's head and asked him if he was in pain. He only answered indifferently that he often had headaches, but lately he had been feeling feverish. But then he decided to open up to the angel and added that he had no appetite. His heart was beating at an incredible speed, and the world around him seemed to be floating. The angel confirmed and added that if he stayed in the sun for a long time, he started to feel dizzy, and after a short walk he felt short of breath. In addition, his stomach does not accept fatty foods. The boy asked if it was fatal. Mienna was asked about his daily routine. He remarked that even if she was not omniscient, shouldn't she know at least something about her ward? Mienna calmly replied that he could turn to God with such a question, and there he would find the answer. The boy continued to tell her that when he wakes up, he feels bad, so he skips breakfast. Then he reads the newspaper and goes to school. And then he helps his father with various tasks. Miena couldn't understand and asked what he did besides that. The boy replied that he eats lunch and dinner. He is obliged to be present at all meals. But Miena objected and said that he meant rest. He replied that as soon as night falls, he goes to bed. Miena asked what he did in his dreams. The boy replied that he goes to the library and reads a lot of books. Now the girl realized the reason for his illness. It's because the boy doesn't get enough rest. But in general, Koreans tend to overwork. After all, Korea is a country of shiny buildings and overtime. Miena asked the boy why he kept exhausting himself. Without thinking, he replied that it was because of a sense of duty. Then he wondered if he was having a dream so that he could evaluate himself objectively. He didn't know why he thought of this, but it was quite interesting. The boy suggested that we get to the point in order to get the most out of this conversation. But when Miena heard this, she got angry and threw him to the floor. There was nothing to be done. She had to take extreme measures. Miena told him to get a good rest, and she would stay with him until he fell asleep and rested. The guy tried to argue with the angel and replied that he had things to do, and a lot of them. But after a while, he finally fell asleep. A young lady was sitting in the living room with her maid, and she noticed that her mistress was in a good mood. It would have been strange if no one had noticed. Everything was turning out exactly as the girl had imagined. Patrick Johnson started searching for treasure, and other people fell for their trick and started visiting the mine. But fortunately, thanks to the timely measures taken by the parents, no one was able to get into the mine unnoticed. The more interest there is in these lands, the sooner a merchant will be found who will offer a large sum for them. I think it's time to raise the price. And as for Justin, Miena began to use various ways to make sure he rested. In case Justin couldn't sleep, she even wrote a huge letter of advice. Miena came to Justin every night and patiently rocked him. And the result of her efforts was the long-awaited arrival of her mother home. Miena sat outside the mansion and assured Tina that the weather was incredible today. It was going to be a beautiful day because her mother was coming home soon. Finally, her mother arrived home, but not alone. Justin was there with her. The mother asked him why her daughter was not in bed. The mother said that after reading her daughter's letter, the young duke was eager to see her. His symptoms were very similar to Mien's. The boy bowed and expressed his gratitude, and thanks to her, he feels much better. He also intends to thank her in person. Miena was scared and wondered if Justin recognized her. It was strange that it took him only a moment to remember what she looked like. Miena was embarrassed, and her mother noticed. The girl replied that if she had known about the boy's arrival earlier, she would have asked Tina to dress her in a nice dress. She also added that it was very embarrassing to meet a guest in a home shirt and asked if she could change quickly. Justin replied that of course he could wait. But the mother added that the young gentleman should not be kept waiting for long. When the girl was dressed, she asked if Justin wanted to have a cup of tea with her. The boy happily agreed. Miena asked him if it must have been hard for him to recover. He couldn't imagine how happy she was to see him healthy. Miena also thanked Justin for taking care of her mother. Unfortunately, she can't stay at home for long because of the huge costs of her treatment. Justin replied that he knew that the girl's family was not in the best financial situation. Miena realized that this topic of conversation would be unpleasant for the boy, so she assured him that she knew she had similar symptoms, so she decided to share her recipe. Justin said that he had imagined the girl a little differently. If he had known she was so shy, he would have announced his visit. The young lady replied that she would have been surprised enough to run away anyway. Justin said he was sure that was the case. He had also heard that the girl's illness was progressing and doubted whether he should bother her. But he was very glad that he was able to talk to the lady. Miena replied that she had not been feeling well for the past few days. But now, finally, her condition has improved a bit. Justin said that she had spent several nights with him, patiently trying to get him to sleep, so he thought it was the right thing to do to ask how she was feeling. Miena was surprised, but she didn't act surprised. She immediately realized that the boy was playing a trump card. Then she smiled and asked if he meant that he had seen her in his dreams. Justin replied that she shouldn't pretend that she didn't know anything. He had not come to argue. Miena was immediately upset and turned to Justin and told him that she truly did not understand what he was talking about. Sitting over a cup of tea, Justin replied that it would be difficult for him to forget something he had seen at least once. Besides, he is not so stupid as to erase from his memory the face of a person who suddenly appeared right in front of him. Miena pretended that this was incredible, but she thought that her health was no joke. Anyone can get glitches from such overwork. Justin smiled and offered to finish the performance. The boy also suggested that they finally get down to business. Miena got excited, and Justin said that given the sudden increase in the family's capital, he thought the girl would be interested in it. Miena replied that before he continued the conversation, she wanted to clarify something. She asked why Justin was so sure that she was the girl in his dream. Justin answered that she and his mother looked very much alike. At first, he thought he was mistaken, but as soon as he saw the young lady, his doubts were immediately dispelled. Miena realized that the problem was that she got her looks from her mother. If she looked more like her father, she would not be under suspicion. Justin asked if that was all she wanted to know. Miena confidently replied that he was right. She was the girl from the dream. To tell you the truth, she said excitedly, she would like to apologize to Justin. He asked what she was going to apologize for. Miena said that he could see that she had not been very polite in the dream. Perhaps she had had too much to drink, but it was only for Justin's benefit. Justin replied that if it hadn't been for Miena, he wouldn't have been able to recover so quickly. Her radical measures had a positive effect. He also added that the girl should not worry about it. Despite her cavalier attitude, his offer still stands. Also, the seriousness of his intentions would be backed up by an official contract. Miena replied that if there was anything about a contract, it was better to discuss it with her father, because she cannot procreate. Besides, Justin understands that she does not have much time left. Miena said that she stopped taking her medication of her own free will, and their financial situation has nothing to do with it. Therefore, she cherishes every minute of her life. Miena continued that Justin claims that she should be interested in his offer. But is it really worth the girl's precious time? Justin replied that he fully understood what the girl meant. Even though it is not customary in high society to flaunt your wealth, you cannot hide it completely. The dramatic improvement in the girl's family's well-being seemed quite unexpected to him, and not only to him. Miena said that her family was just lucky, but Justin felt something was wrong and was sure that the girl was also to blame. Justin said that sooner or later others would find these changes suspicious as well. Therefore, the Grand Duke Everdeen would provide their family with financial support. At that moment, Miena and Justin were approached by the maid Tina with a teapot. She thanked them and asked them to leave for a while. Miena started to pour the tea and told the boy that if they thought about it, they should have some kind of a safety net so that people would not question where the Sidus family got their money. Then Miena asked him decisively if Justin promised her his protection. He replied that he would if she kept her end of the bargain. Then Miena asked if Justin shouldn't have gotten his father's approval before giving them protection. Justin replied that he was his father's heir and had the same authority. In addition, having discussed it with Miena, he was confident that his decision was the right one. Justin had a good feeling about it, but in order to justify it, he had to think carefully about every step. Miena looked into those honest silver eyes. Her family really needs financial assistance, so this chance should not be missed. If the girl manages to establish business relations with the Duke and Justin, then in the future they can develop into a friendship between their families. Miena still doesn't know what she's agreeing to and would like to hear all the terms of the deal. Justin answered that since it was a contract with an option to extend at the end of the term, it needed to be formulated correctly. But first, he needed to make sure that the trade agreement between Somnium and Linux would be successful. Miena was surprised and asked again. Justin asked her once again to help ensure that the trade agreement was concluded successfully. Miena replied that she believed this was a matter of state, and it should also be entrusted to the person in charge. Her family had nothing to do with international affairs. Besides, Justin knows almost nothing about her abilities. The girl apologized, but she seemed unable to fulfill this request. Justin replied that the girl could travel through other people's dreams, freely control them, and change her image whenever she wanted. Miena accepted this, but still does not understand how her abilities can affect the outcome of the deal. Justin replied that even though they lived in the capital, they were not close to the imperial court. Min interrupted him and asked him to be clearer. Justin happily replied that the more they talked, the more he was overwhelmed by the joy of meeting the girl. Then he asked her if she would feel better if she tried to rest, as she had advised him. Miena replied that it was unlikely. Of course, her lack of sleep was affecting her condition, but it had nothing to do with her illness. Anyway, she continued, unfortunately, she can't help him in any way. She is banned from attending various political gatherings. Justin replied that she didn't have to do that. All she had to do was to enter the dreams of the members of the Linux embassy. Then, Mienya wondered if trade agreements were a joke to Justin. She asked him if he was serious about it. If there were any disagreements between the representatives of the states, then she would not be able to influence their decisions. Justin replied that the fact was that the process of signing the agreement with Linux had taken too long. Information about it had already been published in the newspaper. All that was left was to agree on the details. But at the last moment, Linux suddenly changed its mind, put forward a number of different demands, and when the Somnium could not satisfy them, it began to insist on canceling the agreement. Mienya realized that the Linux authorities knew that Somnium needed this agreement much more than they did. That's why they're not going to make any concessions. In addition, the production of magic stones in the Empire has decreased significantly. Then Mienya said that during the negotiations, it turned out that the state reserves of Somnium were almost over. And then she asked if that was why they wanted to establish trade with Linux. But the rulers of Linux would not be able to derive much benefit from this agreement. So they left everything to the will of God. The girl realized that was why Justin did not stop working even in his sleep and became interested in her abilities. Justin laughed and replied that the girl seemed to understand everything on her own, so he didn't have to explain anything. But Mienya replied that she hadn't agreed to it yet. Justin asked her if she was that categorical, and she could definitely do it. Then Mienya asked Justin if it was possible to lie to the people of the country. Not just any country, but a sacred country. Justin asked who would know about it. After all, it would be great luck for them to come face to face with the deity. Mienya knew that Justin understood perfectly well that she could not refuse such an offer. The more she looked at him, the more ridiculous he looked. But no matter how you slice it, Justin was right. Mienya agreed, but she wanted to clarify something. She doesn't want financial support. She wants them to be business partners with equal rights and responsibilities. In addition, any information she receives in the future must be verified and truthful. Justin agreed and assured her that he was not going to deceive her and asked if she had anything else to add. Mienya was a little embarrassed, but she said that even if she stopped coming to Justin's dreams, he shouldn't forget to rest. At first, Justin was surprised, but then he replied that he also had one condition: his talent must be appreciated. His family encourages and rewards talented people, and Mienya is the most talented girl he has ever met. In the future, the Sidus family will receive financial assistance from the Everdeen family. In the near future, they plan to expand their business to ensure financial stability. This means that the girl's family will have enough money to buy the medicines needed to keep Lady alive. That night, Mienya decided that if the deal was done, she should start working. She was sure that she was in her dream, but she felt as if she was falling through the cracks. But still, she did not understand why the Duke had suddenly decided to entrust her with such an important task. Was it because she had visited his dreams only a few times? Once in the dream, the girl decided to visit Ruth. But when she entered, she was frightened because the boy was crying. The boy was scared because he heard a sound. Mienya asked him if she had scared him and apologized. Mienya went to Ruth and asked him how he was doing and if he had made any new friends. Ruth denied it and said that when he woke up, they brought him food. And as soon as he eats everything, his father comes and starts teaching him. Mienya asked what he was teaching him. The boy answered, what he has to do. He also told her about his abilities. Mienya asked excitedly what kind of abilities. But Ruth said that he could not tell her about it, otherwise he would get into trouble. Mienya decided to close the topic and asked what he was doing afterwards. The boy replied that he ate again, then took a shower, and then went to bed. Mienya assured him that the darkness of his dreams was a reflection of his frightening reality. Mienya has no idea what made him this way, but in this environment he definitely won't have normal dreams. Ruth replied that he didn't understand what he was talking about. Mienya replied that he didn't need to understand it yet, but in general, the girl wanted to ask him for something, namely to show him his world. The boy cautiously decided to try to show the lady his world. He looked out of his bed and checked if there were any open windows in the room. The maid brought him a tray of food. The boy sat down on the bed and started to eat. But at that moment, the father decided to ask how his day was. Thank God that the maid took him for a bath at that moment. Rude does not like to talk to his father. Mienna ordered him to stop and said she couldn't bear to watch. Ruth repeats the same actions over and over again, every day without exception. Then she asked the boy if he had ever done anything else before they met, even once. He wanted to answer something, but Mienna interrupted him. She happily assured him that she was his first real friend. To think that a girl with only a few days left had such an important mission. For Ruth, even her appearance was an unpredictable event. The girl did not fit into his picture of the world at all. It was as if she were a mistake or a virus. If she hadn't appeared in the dream, he would have continued to live his boring life, and he would have been unaware of anything. Mienna was not responsible for this, but she seemed to explode and said that she could not let things go. The girl was shocked by the fact that everything turned out to be much more serious than she could have imagined. But she didn't have much time left to waste on regret and impotent anger. Mienna turned to the boy and gave him a choice. If he did not take her hand, he would have to spend the rest of his childhood in this darkness. Mienna offered Ruth two options. She can't pretend that she didn't see him just because she's about to die. Unfortunately, she will not have the opportunity to help him for the rest of her life. She doesn't even know who he is or where he lives, and she cannot come and take him with her. The first option was that as long as she had the strength, she could try to teach him, but the more he knows, the harder it will be for him. Once he knows what he is deprived of, he may feel the pain of not being able to enjoy it. And then, realizing all his limitations and helplessness, he will not be able to simply break down. The girl also mentioned a second option. It was to leave everything as it is. If he doesn't feel uncomfortable, then maybe he doesn't need to change anything. The boy thought about it, but then answered that he would really like Mienna to continue to visit him in his dreams. All she could do for Ruth was to reassure him that he could not live without her, Mienna realized. She also happily told him that no matter what decision her new friend made, she would still come to him, she promised. Then Mienna stretched out her hand and sincerely suggested that if the boy wanted to choose the former, he could come to her. Ruth stood there and did not know what to say, but then he said that he was very happy that Mienna had explained to him what the name meant. The boy started walking towards the girl and continued. He also liked the name she gave him very much. Ruth sincerely hopes that his new friend will tell him about many other things. This would make him the happiest child. The boy came up to Mienna and she said she could finally look at his face. To begin with, Mienna said that she could not visit him every day. She also could not promise to come at the same time. Ruth then asked what a promise was. Mienna replied that it is an agreement with another person that cannot be broken. Therefore, it is better not to make promises that a person cannot fulfill. Ruth understood and replied that he knew how to wait. Mienna laughed and asked who cried when he saw her today. Mienna also reminded the boy that she was not the only person in his world. She is his first friend, but not his last. Therefore, if she disappears for a while and he is left alone, he should not think that he will spend the rest of his life alone. Mienna happily asked the boy if he wanted to see something interesting, something that would make him want to learn. Mienna tried to use magic and showed the boy shining stars. They seemed to enchant the boy. That's how Mienna got involved in political games she had no idea about and became a teacher. Sitting in the living room, the girl looked very tired. Justin asked her if she was feeling unwell. Justin laughed at the girl and added that, judging by her expression, she was tired of his presence. Mienna saw the pile of paintings and was surprised. She asked if Justin had spent a lot of money on them. Justin replied that if it would help in the fulfillment of their plan, then everything was fine, and asked why he was so kind. Mienna replied that she was just overestimating his meticulousness, but Justin shouldn't have tried so hard. Justin replied that the more material he had, the better the results would be. If this was not enough for the girl, he would deliver more. But the girl replied that this was enough. From the very beginning, she planned to just skim the paintings with her eyes, and in her sleep she would look at all the details more closely. But if that's the case, then why not do it right now? Mienna thought. The god the people of Linux believe in is called Verdanda. The believers scattered all over the continent. Thanks to them, the state they founded could withstand attacks from other countries with a weak army and small reserves of magic stones. In other words, if someone encroached on the holy, they would be cursed by almost the entire continent. Justin kindly asked Mienna if she needed any more paintings. She replied that she did not. But since they were painted by different people, there are some differences in the image of the deity. Justin replied that in recent years, the image from Lionel's canvas has been considered canonical. Mienna added that she shouldn't get too carried away with it, lest she get too wise. Mienna knew she had to be careful, because every religion has its fanatics. They might not believe it if the image of Verdanda was even slightly different from their imagination. And then Justin asked the girl if she believed in God. Mienna froze and immediately answered that she did not. Justin smiled and said that he thought so, but he was still a little surprised. Then Mien was asked if people don't turn to faith to find hope for salvation. The girl realized that even if there was a God, how could she believe in him when he had condemned her to a painful death for the second time? Mien asked Justin if he believed in God. He replied that he tends to believe in himself first and foremost, and in what is supported by facts. Therefore, he denies the existence of gods and other supernatural phenomena. But in Somnium, one legend is passed down by word of mouth, according to which the first emperor made a deal with a dragon. Mien asked if he was referring to the legend that promised their land eternal prosperity. Justin replied that this version was known to the whole nation, but there is another one, which is known only to the emperor's relatives and loyal people. Mien asked if he would tell her this legend. She wondered if he was really ready to tell her a real state secret. Mienna seemed to be burning with curiosity, but in her heart she felt that there was something not pure. But if she found out, her family could be sent into exile. So Mienna spoke to Justin and told him that she did not want to hear the story if it would not be of any use. Then Justin slyly asked what if it would. Mienna replied that it still didn't have any special meaning. Justin said that even if they had equal rights and similar interests, there were still boundaries that should not be crossed. Justin said that it was time for him to leave. He wants to take part in the auction, so he has to leave the girl. Mienna saw the guest off nicely and said that she was going to go to her room and rest and wished Justin good luck at the auction. Rampus, the capital of the empire. The people immediately noticed that the Grand Duke Everdeen had joined the auction. Surely something really valuable would be bid on at the auction. Justin looked at the situation and realized that this could not be. According to Mienna, only 5 people were interested in the auction. It must be that the others came to the auction house just to see the entire Everdeen family. As soon as Justin appears somewhere, he is immediately in the center of attention. Usually people don't take their eyes off him, except for one person. Justin remembers Mienna and how she talks to him freely, as if she forgets about his noble background, but never crosses boundaries. Mienna is a very talented person. Although she is only 12, he could not find a better business partner. But she is also a bit strange. She once told him that even though he was a duke 3 times over, giving her life-sustaining medication was like pouring water into a bottomless pit. She had no idea what Justin expected from this investment. In her opinion, at the time of the conversation, Justin had miscalculated. Then she added that as much as a person gives, he gets back. Everything should be in balance. By the time the necessary medicines are delivered to Somnium, she will no longer be in this world. The girl has nothing to hide, she warned Justin with these words. Only when Justin said that he trusted his intuition, she couldn't hide her shyness, which was quite cute. And if she manages to convince the politicians to approve the trade deal, then Somnium can develop various industries through the import of magic stones from Linux. And this is absolutely the only and perfect opportunity to make their state even richer and more powerful. It seems that Lady Mean still doesn't know much, Justin thought. No, she doesn't. The boy was almost certain that she had already given up. She cares about the people she has to leave behind more than she cares about herself. In this respect, Mienna is a bit stupid. While Justin was thinking, the host announced the next lot. The one who buys it will get the right to own the Talise mines and neighboring lands. The host announced the starting price, which was 300,000 peons. Justin realized that if the price of the mine was higher than the value of the treasures hidden in it, people would change their minds about buying it. He had to be patient. But something went wrong and Justin named his price. He was ready to buy the mines for 2 million pesos. Justin decided to use this opportunity to show his business partner how important the Everdeen name is. After the auction, Justin visited Mienna and told her about the auction. He also provided her with the purchase documents, which included the name of her son Lauren. Mienna was surprised and said that she had never seen such numbers. Justin laughed and replied that, with her permission, he would consider it a compliment for his ingenuity. For an ordinary person, 10,000 would have been enough to live comfortably for a whole year. Lauren Johnson's fortune was about 2 million, but his son offered as much as 3 million. Miena read this and was not happy, and thought it was cruel. Then, Justin said that he thought the lady sometimes forgot about the social status of his family. The merchants and aristocrats of the empire do nothing but look into their mouths. They care more than anything about what they are interested in, what they buy, and what they sell, and also with whom they are in close relationships. Mian said that the last point sounded particularly terrifying. Miena continued, "Apparently, Justin has more influence on people than she ever thought possible." She wondered if, given his interest in the Everdeen family, Patrick Johnson also needed to take over the mines, whatever it was. Justin broke the silence and the girl's thoughts and assured her that he had done what she had asked him to do. But now it was her turn. Mienia happily said that Justin could rely on her. The girl would do everything in the best possible way. In dreams in which gods appear, the most important thing is a spectacular appearance. Any deity must be able to appear in the right place and at the right tea, surrounded by a sacred aura. A young man turned to his wife and assured her that he had been putting it off for 30 years because he couldn't muster the courage. But all this time, he had been wanting to tell her something. After thinking a bit, Miena realized that it would be a bit inappropriate if she said something like, "I want you to obey me," at the very moment when a person is going over the top to confess his feelings to a girl. And then the girl decided to unleash an unexpected barrage of thunder and lightning. The man was furious and clearly not happy about it. The thirsty for the forbidden fruit cannot see the truth through the green veil that covers his eyes, and the serpent tempter bites his own tail in confusion. The man fell to his knees and began to pray to God. Miena smiled and realized that all she had to do was give a good speech and leave. She still has many similar tasks, so she is not going to waste time. They would have to figure it out on their own. A red-haired man burst into the event and called out to Mr. Robert. He said he had seen something terrible. He found Robert, but the man grabbed him by the shoulder and also said he had something to say. Another man tried to calm them down and suggested that when he counted to 3, they would say what they wanted to say at the same time. The men both said that the tempting snake bites its own tail. It was a message, a divine message. Due to this unexpected coincidence, the delegation of diplomats even canceled the 3rd scheduled meeting and sent an urgent letter to the host. After reading this, the frightened emperor, who had never heard of collective visions, announced that he was personally going to the Somnium. Justin read the newspaper next to Mean. All he asked for was to facilitate a trade agreement, and she even took care of the friendship of the peoples. It seems that the girl liked Justin's gift. After all, she received 3 million pence. Mienia had to express her gratitude somehow. Mienia replied that she could do nothing but take this task seriously. Usually, people like Justin don't take dreams seriously, so she asked him if it wasn't better to act. Justin replied that he was not going to scold her. He was just a little surprised, as the situation had taken an unexpected turn. The forbidden fruit symbolizes personal gain, and the color green has long been associated with greed, so the metaphor was extremely successful, especially the part with the snake biting its own tail. Justin has nothing to say about other religions, but for Verdanda believers, the Ouroboros is a bad omen. After all, it is a symbol of the endless rotation in the wheel of samsara, as well as the impossibility of leaving it and going to the divine realm, where Verdanda lives and the fountain of destiny is located. In other words, this is the most terrible punishment for them. Linux scripture, translated by David Liverty, and the year 1431 according to the new calendar. But to put it even more simply, if a person pursues useful goals, he or she will incur God's wrath. That's how it happened, Justin said. Since Linux is a very powerful state, an alliance with it would add military aid to their country. And since the Emperor of Linux had decided to visit Somnium in person, it could serve as a good example for the rulers of other countries. Miena smiled and replied that she was glad Justin was pleased. But no matter how she looks, he starts to frown when the girl behaves nicely. Justin replied that the negotiations were temporarily suspended, but he believed that success would not be long in coming. He went on to say that that was it. At least for the moment, their deal was successful. Mian replied that this was strange, because the Duke she knew would not have celebrated victory before time. Justin then asked if he hadn't said that he really appreciated talented people. Mienia thought about it, put on a serious face, and added that Justin was not the kind of person who took things lightly. Then the girl asked with fear if the gentleman was in any pain. Had he forgotten his promise and started working at night again? Justin answered that he was not sick, and he did not work in his sleep either. In addition, he does not forget to light scented candles to help him sleep better. Justin had already explained the reason why. It was because he appreciated her talent. Mienya asked what this had to do with closing the deal. She could not understand the connection between these statements. He was also a talented person, so why didn't he praise himself? She wondered. Justin answered that he meant that Mienya had done her part, so she could take a break for a while. The girl was surprised. It looked suspicious, and she replied that people don't change that easily. Justin asked her who she thought he was. Justin said that it was specified in one of the clauses of the agreement, to provide the girl with enough time to rest. He and the girl's father had taken this into account when drawing up the contract. He said that the girl wanted to spend the time she had left with her family. Justin asked how the girl felt about relaxing and having fun. They have plenty of money now so she can buy new dresses. The father also said that he would like to buy a villa for the girl, and since their family is now free, Justin would be happy to introduce it. The girl could get some fresh air and gain strength. Then Mienya asked him to stop, because now is not the time to rest. There was still some work to be done, and then they would be able to grab their luck. Justin replied that she would catch it only after resting. Mian was furious and did not understand what had bitten him. Mianena Sidus was sent on a forced vacation. She had worked hard to successfully sign a trade agreement, and now she was forced to take a vacation at the expense of the Everdeen family. Miena was surprised. And is this called sponsorship? She didn't think Justin would be so generous. Of course, she had heard that his family was quite wealthy, but not that much. The mother said to her father that the cottage was not far from the Haim mountain range, and it would be nice if the young duke would come with them. Her father replied that he had offered him, but he politely declined. Miena realized that this was Justin's whole point. He had put off all his affairs for the time of their meeting, so he had a lot on his mind. But the Haim mountain range is the same place where the wizard who returned after 50 years had a chance to see the dragon. But the terrain here is so hilly that the mountains themselves can be mistaken for a huge lizard. The Sidus family had already arrived at the estate and were greeted by Leonard Bottler, the estate's caretaker. Leonard assured them that he would do everything possible to make the family comfortable. Miena thought about it and realized that Justin had done a good job, but she should also be polite to make a good impression. The father also greeted the warden and added that he had seen a boat by the lake and asked if his daughter could go for a ride. Leonard smiled and said of course. If they wanted to, he would get everything ready right away. The father also got on the boat with the girl, but Miena was scared. She would never get on the same boat with her father again. In the evening, Tina approached the girl with a smile and assured her that her father definitely did not mean to put her in danger. Miena tiredly agreed. The father probably wanted to see his only daughter smile at least once, but she only makes him sad, Min said. The maid Tina replied by asking where else they could find someone as kind as the girl. You shouldn't keep all your sadness inside. You can share it. Miena quickly fell into a dream. She did not think she would fall asleep so quickly. She saw a shining door in front of her and asked who owned it. The dark side of the girl said that she should give in to temptation because she was curious about what was inside. But the light side said that she shouldn't do it because she would have problems later. Then the girl decided that she should somehow develop her abilities to earn money. It was now or never. Miena walked to the door, inside which was darkness, and the moment she entered, she turned invisible. It was like the world of Ruth's dreams, but still, where she was now was more picturesque. It looked like a dark hole. If you stay here for a long time, it becomes difficult to breathe. And the cold and dampness of the earthen walls was even more acute. The girl decided to look around and take no more than 50 steps. Mienia hates the dark and noticed how scared she was. If she screams, she will give herself away, and she needs to disguise herself. As she continued walking, she heard someone's presence, saw a black shadow, and screamed. Someone was hiding near her. Mienia saw either a person or an animal with vertical pupils. If only someone had told her that dragons didn't exist, she thought. The unknown person spoke, saying that since he was the master of this place, everything and everyone should obey him. The unknown person said, quite likely, that the girl had never met anyone stronger than her. But there is someone in the world who will surpass her. So she had to tell him how she came to be here. Miena stood silent and frightened for a long time, but then she said hello and apologized for intruding on the stranger's sleep. There is no excuse for her actions. She once again apologized deeply for what she had done and gave her word that it would not happen again. Miena also promised not to tell anyone about what she had seen today and begged them to forgive her and let her go. The unidentified man said that he would not harm her, so she should not be afraid. But he would not let her go just like that. The girl would have to entertain him. Miena tried to calm down. She could have made the stranger feel better. But now she had to try not to offend him, so that he would let her leave in peace. Miena rubbed her palms together and suggested that they spend their time together. But before that, she wanted to ask a few questions. The stranger noticed that she was using a very interesting tone of voice and suggested that she follow him. As she walked along, Miena was surprised to see a pile of jewelry around her. They were everywhere, on the floor, on the shelves, on the walls. The stranger said that she must have imagined his nest differently. Miena replied that she thought it was just a huge cave. The unidentified man added that he rarely meets anyone who answers questions honestly in his presence. "It's funny," he continued. "Humans are insignificant creatures, but their arrogance is too inflated." Mien laughed and confirmed. "Anyway, all living beings are quite self-centered," she added. She looked at the huge amount of treasure chest and thought it would be nice to take it all and just run away. The stranger stopped and assured her that if she was honest with him, he would give her the opportunity to ask him 3 questions. Then, Miena wondered if she could ask him anything if she answered his questions honestly. Is the heart of a dragon really that generous? The stranger began to talk, and first of all, he asked again what he had never received an answer to, namely, how she had ended up in his dream. Mien replied that she had opened the door and entered. Her abilities allow her to freely enter other people's dreams, and the door serves as a portal. Then the stranger asked how she chose which door to enter. The girl replied that usually the doors of those who have a great influence on this world shine brighter than others, and the dazzling shine of his door aroused her unconvincing curiosity. The unknown said that this was not surprising. The unknown added that judging by the amount of energy she had accumulated in her body, he thought she had had this ability for a very long time. But he would like to know since when. Then Miena was surprised and jumped up from her chair and asked what he meant by accumulated. But the man calmly replied that he was asking questions now. Miena replied that she had developed this ability when she was 5 years old. The man then asked if this meant that she could enter the dreams of any living being. Miena replied that yes, if she knew the name and surname. But with people who have a complete match, she may have some difficulties. She also added that she was not able to find those who were outside the range of her abilities. The unidentified man asked what those limits were. The girl replied, for example, that from here she cannot get into the dreams of those in the capital. The unidentified man asked if the capital was Luminare. Luminare is the old name of Lampasu. Then Miena wondered if this dragon was so far behind the times. He must have spent many centuries in this cave. Then suddenly the stranger asked her how long she thought she had to live. Miena was frozen in place. The girl answered perhaps about a year. But the stranger said that she was too calm about it. Miena replied that if she worried about it, she would lose sight of something really important to her. By focusing on the little things, her father almost lost all his money, family, and home. There is no more stupid thing to do than to dwell on something that you cannot change. Then the stranger mysteriously asked her if she was sure about it. What if she absorbed his heart and thus increased her life expectancy? Miena asked if she was allowed to joke, and replied that it was unlikely that this dragon really wanted to do that. Perhaps the way she spoke would make him angry, but she only had a short time to live, so she couldn't tolerate such abuse. There is nothing worse than giving a person false hope. The unidentified man said that she was too harsh. No one has ever dared to behave like that in front of him, but he likes it, so now he listens to her. Miena turned to Mr. Dragon and asked if he wanted to ask her to find someone. He asked why she thought that. Since he asked about her abilities, she thinks he wants to make sure they meet his expectations. The girl thinks that the person he is looking for is very far away, or his location is unknown. Probably no one but her will be able to find him. Given his level of awareness, he cannot find relevant information anywhere. This is probably why he asked her how much time she had left and decided to give her a piece of his heart as a reward. Then Miena showed her teeth and asked why Mr. Dragon shouldn't speak to her more gently. The stranger became angry and said that this was astonishingly impudent for such a small girl. She must not overstep her bounds. Otherwise, he would take her head off her shoulders. Miena was frightened and then replied that if he really wanted to do that, he would have done it long ago. Then Miena asked what he needed to find. The stranger replied that he didn't know if she could help him yet. Did she really think he would reveal all the secrets so easily? Miena remembered him telling her that her body was full of energy, so she asked what he meant and if it had anything to do with her illness. The dragon confirmed that her body could not cope with the power she had. Therefore, it won't be long before it breaks down and can't take the strain. Miena said she didn't believe it. In her past life, she was an ordinary person, but she still died of a disease. The unknown man replied that her gift is just energy that flows through her body. Her strength is growing much faster than she thinks, and even if she uses her abilities often, it will not change anything. The dragon said that the girl had only one question left to ask. Miena was a little nervous, because this question had been bothering her throughout her life. She asked uncertainly if there were other dragons besides him, or at least gods. The stranger was surprised and asked if she believed in God. The girl replied that she had never believed in dragons before, but everything happens in the world. To be honest, she personally wished they didn't exist. Then the stranger replied that there were no other creatures. He asked if the young lady could help him. Miena objected and replied that it would not work that way and asked about her reward. She did not want to risk her life for empty promises. He asked her sternly if the word of the dragon meant nothing to her. Miena smiled and suggested that he think it over. As far as she understood, he could not leave this place, and she had come here for a short time. Besides, you can't get a reward in a dream. The dragon realized that. Then he asked how about an offer if he gave her the right to come to his nest whenever she wanted. And even if she refused his offer, he would not offend her. He certainly wouldn't stoop that low. Miena thought about it. He wouldn't touch her even if she didn't agree. And if she did, then she could come here whenever she wanted. Maybe she could even make friends with the dragon. Mien said slyly that she had noticed many beautiful and shining treasures in his house. The dragon replied that she could have anything she liked. Then, the girl was happy and agreed to the deal. If she helped him find what he needed, then she would have all the jewels. But Miena realized that she couldn't carry it all alone and asked if her family could come with her. She was small and weak, so it would be difficult for her to get to his cave alone. "So be it," said the dragon. He would allow the girl to take one more person with her. He was pleased to talk to the girl. Miena was happy and thanked him. She would only bring a strong and honest person to the cave who knew how to keep his mouth shut. But after these words, the dragon stretched out 2 fingers and touched her forehead and said that it was time to sign a contract. Miena was scared. What contract? He replied that the observer of the end of life must leave his mark. Miena realized that the dragon was crazy. The more she thought about it, the more convinced she became of the idea. What he asked her to find was neither human, nor animal, nor even a deity. He asked her to find the world tree Yggdrasil. Miena was angry and did not understand how she was supposed to find it or whether it even existed. But she was sure she could do it. She would do anything for the sake of the jewels waiting for her in the cave. The girl sent a paper airplane in search of the tree, but unfortunately it was not successful. The young lady didn't know what to do anymore, but she was ready to go on a trip around the world. Her parents would certainly not like this idea, but she would think about it. Finally, Miena came to Ruth's dream. The girl greeted him happily and apologized for the long wait. Ruth saw the girl and was very happy. Miena hugged him and explained that she didn't want to be so late, but she had new things to do. The boy also hugged her and said that everything was fine. Then Miena was surprised and asked what was going on around her. Stars appeared in the boy's dreams. The boy replied that she had shown them to him. Miena realized that his dreams were still dark and empty, and that was better than nothing. The location of the stars allows you to see different constellations. The girl often looked at the stars, so she knows this very well. Ruth was able to arrange a planetarium like the one in her office, but she had never seen anything like it. Her student seemed to be a genius, and she wondered if she could handle him. Then the girl and the boy came to a tall tree, and Miena picked up an apple and asked what it was. Surprisingly, the boy answered correctly, and probably had already learned many words. Through 2 calculations, the girl came to 2 conclusions. First, Ruth can memorize perfectly what he has seen only once. Secondly, he already knows how to read and write. But there was one problem, she thought. He has learned to read, but the meaning of the sentences is difficult for him to grasp. That is, he does not understand the meaning of words. No matter how you slice it, it's strange. His father taught Ruth something incomprehensible, but he didn't explain the words. This is definitely a new kind of abuse. Surprisingly, in spite of everything, the boy's pronunciation is well developed. But there are some problems with communication. The girl patted Rut's head and knew that he also needed help adapting to communicating with other people. It would be good if he could gain experience. But then Mienya was upset. She didn't know how to explain this to the little boy. After all, she has no friends herself. While talking to Justin, Mien asked him if he had any friends. The boy asked why she wanted to know. Mienya apologized if she had upset him with this question. She also did not want to embarrass him. Justin replied that he understood, but apparently she didn't have any friends either. Justin wanted to continue, but he was silent. The girl assured him that he could continue and not be afraid to offend her. Then Justin said, "It seems that just a second ago the girl was talking about her trip." Mienya confirmed, laughed, and added that she had enjoyed it very much, although she almost drowned in the lake because of her father. The young lady really liked being in the mountains and asked if she could go there more often. Justin replied that he was pleased that she liked his estate, and if she wanted, he could give it to her. Mienya replied that it was not worth it and suggested that they should discuss work issues instead. This was more important to her than any gift. The letter that Justin sent to the girl outlined his future plans. During her vacation, she did not forget about work. It seems to her that she needs to analyze everything more carefully in order to achieve the desired result. From now on, both empires will develop maritime and inland trade. The Linux ambassadors turned out to be greedy, and if they had not been reprimanded by the deity, they would never have compromised with the Somnium delegation, as they wanted to extract as much of their own benefit from the agreement as possible.